A lot to talk about the stars like Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen, but there are some other players that I think are super dependable, and we'll talk about five of those players here today on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for joining Locked On Jaguars, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is the number one sports podcast network. I am Tony Wiggins. We thank you for making us your first listen. Shout out to the everydayers that join us here each and every day. Make sure you tap in wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch or listen, we'll be there. Just like the one you're either watching or listening to right now, that is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. As I said, I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of Locked On Jaguars. The Jags are sitting tied at the top of the AFC South at 8-4, have a big game against the Colts for supremacy in that divisional race, and that will occur this weekend here in Jacksonville. But we're going to take inventory a little bit before we move forward with the show. I'm going to tell you where we're going. Not all on the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen. I'll explain what that means in the third segment. In the middle of the show, why they are so pivotal. Who is they? They are the five or maybe six players that I'm going to mention that I believe are super, super dependable, that don't play the quarterback position and that are not the highly paid pass rusher who we expect to lead the team. I'm going to give those guys a break today because we're always holding them accountable when the team doesn't play well. And then we hold them, we give them praise when they do play well. Because that's what happens in the National Football League. You're usually led by your leaders. That's why they are called leaders. Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen played well in some games lately. Even in games where Trevor didn't play well, he ended up playing well, and they won those games. So I'm just going to look today and spread some of this love around. The reason I say that is because whenever a team is playing well, we seem to give the credit to the two or three players that we believe are most responsible. And then when they don't play well, we definitely give credit to the people who may not be responsible for them losing, but are responsible for turning it around and changing it. And that's usually the same two people. It's usually the quarterback, and it's usually whoever is the highest rated or best player on the defense. And I think sometimes we overlook some things, and we overlook the importance of having. In basketball, they call them the others. Shout out to Shaquille O'Neal. But this is a little different. I think the others are more role players between player number 11 and number 17 or 18, right? The dudes that the opposition is going to try to attack them, especially if the opposition will attack your best player. If your best player is an all-pro corner, but he's guarding an all-pro receiver, well, he's going to get attacked because they're just going to go to the all-pro receiver. But sometimes in a game plan, you know exactly where and who and what and why teams do the things that they do because you know your team's weaknesses just like everyone else. And everyone has weaknesses and flaws. And it doesn't mean that they're bad players. I'm not talking about that group. I'm talking about the next group of people that on any given Sunday, they can be the absolute star of the team. And then when they have multiple Sundays and multiple weeks where they carry the team, then they become more than just others. They almost become like shotgun guys, like co-conspirators to whether you win or lose. And the first player that comes to mind to me that is sort of like a glue guy, if you will, is Travis Etienne, the running back. So dependable, so reliable this year, not putting the ball on the ground for the most part, has had a really good season, and he shows you what can happen when you have a competent offensive staff and you have an offensive line that has enough versatility to make sure that even when they're not healthy, they create lanes and opening lanes for guys to run the football and not get hit as soon as they touch it. He's also been very, very effective in the passing game. Travis has 843 yards rushing, a little bit over 170 yards receiving, 2 receiving touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns. Has touched the end zone about 7 times, and he's actually getting help and complimentary play from Bashal Tootin, his backup. So I just think getting picked in the first round in the same draft as Trevor Lawrence, and finally seeing those two guys out there surrounded by competence and competition really, really, really makes me feel good for him, makes me feel good for his career arc. And I hope he's a Jacksonville Jaguars player after this year. I hope he does get an extension and he's allowed to stay here, because I think he just absolutely fits everything that they want to do and how they want to do it in the way that he goes about his business. So salute to Travis Etienne. Um, Parker Washington is number 2 for me, because he also embodies someone who seems like he loves the grind. And what I mean by that is he doesn't just love the game and love what it brings to him and playing in the games. He looks like a dude that actually enjoys the work that is put in behind the scenes. And then he just keeps his head down and keeps chomping at the bit. And he got his opportunity. And, you know, we can call him luck all you want to, but luck is when opportunity meets preparation, and he was prepared for his moment, and he has really taken advantage of it and made himself a very, very important part of this team. Now, as we know, he had a hip injury the other day that took him out of the game. We'll see how that progresses as we move forward, but the Jacksonville Jaguars need guys like Parker Washington, because he is absolutely one of the people that is the heartbeat of this team. And I love the fact that he's another player that's a homegrown guy who has really, really been developed by both staffs, by the way, the one we have now and the one prior to this staff arriving. The third one I'm going to use is Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers has not been here very long. But one of the things that Jacoby Myers did is when you had Travis trying to break in, and they didn't play together, but when you have Travis who was trying to break into the league and then he got hurt, he was a rookie, and then Brian Thomas Jr., had his little slump in his injuries. You needed a stabilizing force at wide receiver to really show that, hey, man, this quarterback ain't as bad as y'all think he is. What's going on here? Because that's a lot of the talk. There's a lot of arguments about whether it was Trevor Lawrence or guys catching the balls or ball placement and all of these things. Well, when the drops disappeared, that's one less problem that this team had. And then all of a sudden, some of these other things started to disappear too. So it just shows how complementary football works hand in hand. And Jacoby Myers has really given you a glimpse of what a professional pass catcher who is consistent looks like. Even though I don't think he has the high-end talent of Brian Thomas Jr., I do believe he personifies what a professional pass catcher is in this league. The last 2 or 3. Brenton Strange. Brenton Strange is another dude, another homegrown guy from the previous administration who kept his head down, kept grinding, and now he's an integral part. I say integral, but it's integral part of what they do offensively from a schematic standpoint, as well as from having the versatility that they don't know, the opposition doesn't know what the play call is, because he's not a move tight end. He's a complete football player who I believe had a chance to be a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro if he did not get banged up. Finally, the last one is a double dose, but I can do this. I know I said 5, but being that we talk about the offensive line having chemistry and cohesion, I'm going to go a double here. I'm going to say the combination of Ezra Cleveland and Robert Hainsey together, side by side. If they weren't side by side, I wouldn't include them in this because there would be too much. But it seems like that left side of the offensive line, when they get these double teams, even though they got beat up the other day by Jeffrey Simmons on one play, it seems as if they work together in tandem, and this offensive line can live up to its potential when those two guys are there together. You can count on them every single week to not be outplayed, to be there, to be the co-conspirators to winning, if you will. And while they'll never get the credit that a quarterback or an edge rusher gets, and even a Foye Oluokun, who is super, super consistent, and I kind of include him in that upper tier with those other guys, you can really, really count on this version of these players this year. I'm going to tell you why it's important, And so pivotal to have guys like that. In just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, man. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. That's right. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is the absolute truth, man. There's nothing like FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's why it's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight, every single moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the moment flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Now, what I like to do, I love the in-game stuff, but I love when I have a surprise on deck to catch it before the game starts, because you probably will get better odds that way. Sometimes you gotta bet on yourself a little bit, and that's what I do. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, so can you. All right, we're moving and grooving here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen here, talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars and what has been a up and down, very, very exciting season. If you watch the Jaguars play and say they're boring, I don't know what's going to help you be more exciting. The only thing I can imagine that could be more exciting is if you maybe skydive or something and then have a scare that your parachute won't open, and then all of a sudden somebody comes and says, no, hit the other button, and you open and you go, oh, I'm good. Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like sometimes watching the Jacksonville Jaguars play. But 8 times this year, they have gone to the locker room in a celebratory manner. Liam Cohen pumping his fist. That's because they have won 2/3 of their games. They are 8-4, tied at the top of the AFC South with the Indianapolis Colts, with a chance to take the lead in the division this Sunday here in Jacksonville. We're talking about players that are dependable. I said 5 guys. I kind of named 6, but one of them that counts as a double because they play side by side and they're super, super important. And I couldn't separate the two. Although if I had to separate them, I'd probably say Robert Hainsey, because he is the center and he touches the ball on offense every single play. But still, we want to give Ezra Cleveland his due. Why are they so pivotal? Well, because sometimes even when you have great players at those positions, those great players kind of cancel each other out, right? Hypothetically, if we were looking at Buffalo versus Kansas City, or Buffalo versus Baltimore, or a healthy Joe Burrow in Cincinnati against either one of those quarterbacks, we'd say, all right, the quarterback gets a wash. We know what they're both going to do. They're both going to have ups and downs, but they're going to deliver in crunch time. You don't want any of those guys to have the ball with 2 minutes left to go, right? And some people might argue that I included somebody in that doesn't deliver late, but that's okay. For the sake of the argument, you get my point. What usually separates these teams, especially when you have people at those positions that you can trust, and it doesn't mean that your quarterback is great all the time, but Trevor has shown a propensity to get it done when things are haywire, when things are going crazy, when it's late in the game and you give him a shot. There's something about him that makes you think, okay, just watch. It's almost like a Diego Pavia. It's like, you don't get that dude the ball, because Trevor, he turns into gritty Trevor. And I'm telling you, man, some weird things happen. Now, you can go, well, maybe if he played better, he wouldn't have put us there. But still, I give credit where credit is due. I'm just watching out for the people that's going to come for me now, because it seems like they think that anytime you say anything that might be factual about Trevor Lawrence is that you're attacking him. And that is not what I'm doing. I'm just stating a fact. And in fact, I'm complimenting him a little bit. So it makes it so important that these other guys, because the other guys, the people I just mentioned, can make plays that really, really wake this team up. Have you seen Robert Hainsey down the field on running plays? I've seen him knock a dude over, all of dude's shoulder blades on the ground, and Hainsey sitting up celebrating. Like, ooh, we got another one, baby. And I know for all the offensive linemen that I know and that I've ever talked to, they get an absolute kick out of that stuff, man. They love it because that means that these dudes are absolutely dialed in. Ezra Cleveland getting what you call a second lick. After he initially does what he does in the running game and his guy's out of the play and he turns around and looks and go, who else can I hit? That stuff, while you don't necessarily see it until the replay, those players know that these things happen. What about Travis Etienne getting that body lean? The body lean when they're approaching first down, even on first down, if it's 1st and 10 and somebody makes contact with him after he gets 2 yards, he's been leaning forward, turning that thing into 3. How many times have you seen the Jaguars come up this much short and thought about 2 plays earlier when a dude had a chance to get the first down and he just went down or went backwards? That is not what Travis Etienne is doing. So this is why they are so important. Parker Washington in the return game or a catch and run situation where I said it yesterday, he turns into a version of a running back once he catches the ball. And to be a guy that's only 5'10", he does a real good job of making difficult high point catches. He has a strong body. So I'm going to compare him a little bit to a dude that nobody wanted to leave here, and that's Christian Kirk. And I'm not slighting Kirk, but I am going to tell you the difference. Sometimes with Christian, because he's not as physical as Parker Washington, when the ball would hit his hands and there was any little contact, he would lose it. Or it would be very easy to separate him from the ball. When you see Parker Washington get his hands on the ball, it's there. It's like a shortstop, like Ozzie Smith, like a gold glove shortstop. He doesn't drop it through contact, and that's because they're built differently as football players. Parker plays a very, very physical brand of football, but really, really knows how to get open, and I think that bodes well for this team. And then we've talked about Brenton Strange. Brenton Strange got some wheels too. Not only that, he has the right mindset and the right attitude that coaches love and that coaches talk about players. Physical, he runs crisp routes. Everybody keeps talking about who he reminds them of. The guy that he reminds me of most of all of the accomplished tight ends is George Kittle. That's who he reminds me of because he does a lot of the similar things in a similar fashion that George Kittle. I'm not saying he's better than George Kittle or as good as George Kittle, but I'm saying that's the type of player he is. So it is why it's important because a lot of the things that these guys do, and including Jacoby Myers, is when you think about the skill guys I just mentioned, Parker, Etienne, Jacoby Myers, and Brenton Strange, the one thing it seems that they are all people that you want on 3rd and 3. You want them all out there because it doesn't matter who Trevor gets the ball to. It after 2 yards, you think they're going to get that extra yard. They're going to find the first down marker. They're going to do exactly what's right. They're not going to drop the ball. And that's what I mean about being dependable. It's the little things, the little plays that when you look back, you can say, man, that was a huge play in this game. That's what being dependable is. And these are the things that I think helped Trevor Lawrence a lot. And this is why early in the year when BT was struggling, this team was leaning on BT because of the talent level that everyone knows that he has. When he wasn't delivering, it was kind of derailing everything. This offense has improved, one, because they're getting more used to the coaching staff, but you're also getting this consistent effort from these very, very dependable players. And I'm telling you, man, it bodes well for the Jaguars this week and down the stretch with their remaining 5 games to see where they end up in this playoff race. And I couldn't be more excited. All right. I'm going to tell you why I did this today, because it's not all just about the quarterback and it's not all just about Josh. And sometimes when we do for a living, you have to explain that because you get caught in the matrix and you start just looking for the easy fruit or thinking that it's just as simple as a quarterback getting better or Josh Allen getting after it. But it also gives you an opportunity to say quarterback has gotten better. Josh Allen has done some things, and to give other people credit for that success, along with give them credit for success. I think some of these role players have ignited those guys and kept this team afloat until those guys came around and started playing well. We'll discuss that more here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's something you share or you use to share memories. Because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. My sister-in-law, man, she's my best friend, and she's my wife's best friend, and her sister. Obviously, we have an Aura frame with her picture on it, and it lights up the room during holidays. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by using auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling carver matte frames. Named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code. There's the promo code Locked On, LOCKEDON at checkout. That's AURAFrames.com, promo code Locked On. The deal is exclusive to listeners, and the frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. All right, man. Riding along here, segment 3 here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. We thank y'all for making us your first listen and the #1 sports podcast network. It's not all on Josh and it's not all on Trevor. And I know there's a gang of folks that listen every day. Shout out to the everydayers. Just kind of been waiting on me to say that, right? It takes more than one really good stretch by a quarterback and another really good stretch by a defensive end, a pass rusher. It takes more than that. But it takes that also. Believe it or not, two things can be true at once. It takes more than that, but it takes them also. For a lot of stretches this season, you were actually getting the extra output from other guys. That's why the Jaguars only in one game, they only got blown out in one game. The other games, they were right there. Even the games that they won, some of those were too close for comfort. But they were getting the good play for the most part, with the exception of Brian Thomas's struggles early and maybe one or two games where the offensive line didn't play well, particularly against the Rams and the Seahawks. They were actually getting the play from these role guys. That's why Parker Washington fell into the favor of the fans early in the season when other people were struggling. And people noticed that Etienne had a little bit of extra giddy up in his giddy up. So Brenton Strange got off to a huge start early and then got hurt, right? But he fought back and came through. What happened is, and what has happened is, now that Trevor Lawrence, of course, besides the first half against Arizona, over the last month has been really, really, really solid at quarterback. And like I said, he didn't always have to be Superman. He could just be Clark Kent and just be Superman every now and then. And the other day, he was hitting them dagger routes, man. He was throwing that thing like Superman. And then it was good to see Brian Thomas Jr. too on one play where Jacoby Myers caught the ball, where Brian Thomas Jr. actually got him probably an extra 10 yards by hustling down the field and blocking. So guys are just engaged, and you see this effort. So Josh Allen was getting all of these pressures, but they started to send blitzers just because they couldn't get sacks. They're doing a little bit less of that, even without Trayvon in the game now. They're moving Josh around, and they're getting some play from some young guys and still coming with some exotic looks every now and then with some pressure. But what has happened is now those players, Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence, have actually started making the plays above the X's and O's that everyone on this team can't do, and everyone on this team is probably not asked to do, because those are the two dudes on offense and defense that lead this team. But it's good that there are other people that can every now and then come up and, like I say, be the star of the games. It was Jacoby Myers the other day. He was the star. The game before that, Brenton Strange was the star. Josh Allen was the star the other day. You're getting so many, and I'm missing a lot of them, but I only named 5 dudes that to me have been super, super dependable for the Jaguars during this particular run and right now where they're sitting. So, look, man, I just really, really believe that you need folks that while they may not be the headliner, at any moment they can spin up there and grab the mic and be a headliner. And you're getting that now. You're getting it consistently. There's no, I need the ball, or give me the ball, or that's what you're paying me to do, or why didn't you give this guy the ball more? There's none of that stuff. It's whoever's open. Be ready. You're going to have a chance to make a play. These guys have been the glue that have stabilized this team, while our best players and then some of our injured players have had to get themselves right and get ready for this run down the stretch. So I feel very, very good about where the Jaguars are as an organization. This is about, I'm being honest with you, this is about as good as I've felt about this team from a long-term perspective since their heyday. I don't feel like this is, because remember, every single time the Jaguars seem like they got it, the next year or two they kind of fall back. I don't envision that happening, because when I look down, man, I just feel like this thing is built on something that is rock solid. And I don't even think we're done. I can't even put a percentage on where we are right now in terms of where this is going to be. And I probably don't want to, because if you do that, that means you might place a little bit of a limit on yourself as to what they can actually accomplish. Doesn't it feel good that they're wide open, and I'll use the term blue sky, that there's so much in front of you, but then it doesn't seem like you're risking a whole bunch? It doesn't seem like it's get rich or die trying, or do or die. It seems like we're going to give it everything we got, but even if we don't make it, we're still functionally good and moving forward. We're going to have a plan to see if we can keep building it. So a lot is going to be said about this game this week. We'll have a crossover edition on Thursday. On tomorrow, I might take a little bit of peek throughout the division, not the Titans because they stink, but look at the other teams, look at the playoff race, and see exactly where the Jaguars are, and then we'll do the crossover on Thursday. And, of course, we'll get ready for the action show on Friday. Until then, man, you guys take care. I love when you hang out with me. I don't take for granted your presence here on Locked On Jaguars, and I know you don't take mine. That's why we go well together, man. Thank you for joining us here again for another episode of Locked On Jaguars. We'll see you next time.